Okay, Sarah, it's 2 after 2:30. How many people do you show on the call?
So I've got you, I've got Matt Lewis, I've got Tracy, I've got Jack Codd, I've got Joe Ribeiro, I've got Carl Stevens, and I've got Daryl Branson. Oh, and Jeff Vaughn.
And me.
And yes, and Tony just joined us. I apologize for the long silence.
So that doesn't give us quite a quorum yet.
Nope, we're about 4 short.
Yep. So
yeah.
let's go ahead and just skip the meeting minutes since we can't really do anything with them anyways right now, and just kind of start going through the agenda, and then hopefully before we get to new business, a few more people will get online.
Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda is the Colorado Broadband Office update.
Oh, I'm shifting. Hold on a second. Sorry. Too many things going on my life right now. So, hi, this is Tony. So I guess what I just wanted to share, as you guys know, since October, we've lost 2 people. Brian left and went to the private sector, and Kim moved on to work for FirstNet in authority in their sort of innovation lab that they have up in Boulder. So, and we've also obviously gone through a transition of administration. So here's the good news. We got on the other side of that transition. I'm still here. And what we're doing right now is that I'm actually recruiting to create some backfills. And when we get a little bit later on into the conversation about the governing body itself, I'll explain how we're shifting the focus of my office. I will continue to be the single point of contact for FirstNet activities, but we're not going to have as much resource in my office focused around things associated with FirstNet or those types of things. Because again, we've gotten to the point where we've completed the opt-in and all the things associated with that, and so that kind of ties into the later conversation that we're going to have. But the good news is that we're recruiting. The office will still be here. We still will have a relationship with the first responder community to help you with questions around technology. And Ed, who you all know, will continue to be a technology resource for the organization to help with folks understanding about new technologies as they roll out into the first responder community. And we'll continue to do things like webinars and so forth. So, those things will continue. But I just want to kind of give everybody a quick update that we're still standing, and it seems like the new governor and administration likes me. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Colorado Public Safety Broadband Update. We have the AT&T and FirstNet operational yearly review, which Tony will go through briefly. If you're interested in having a more in-depth review of this material, please contact me. Ed, do you mind flashing my email address up there really quickly?
I can.
Please contact me, which is highlighted. My email address is highlighted right there. Tony and I are happy to set up some time with you to go into more depth and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so if you folks remember back as part of our agreement with AT&T to opt in, that they would do twice a year operational updates. And so the first update that we got was, frankly, a refresh of the material. Most of the material in this deck was things that they presented to us back in October. And as a result of that, I went back and asked them to provide some specific updates on where they were in terms of deployment. Again, as you know, it was still pretty early in the process, but I just wanted to go through this really briefly. I'm not going to touch on everything that's in the PowerPoint. And as Sarah said, if there's anybody that would like to have a more in-depth presentation on this material, we'll set that up with you. But an agreement that I have with AT&T is that they're willing to share this information with my office. I just can't make copies of it. and I'm going to respect that. So let's just keep going through. So again, if you remember back from October, this is the outline of their agenda that they covered. Keep going. And they talked about some broad program accomplishments. This really didn't change a whole lot from what we saw back in October. And then on Band 14 status, as of the end of the year, you know, they were at 29 of 33 new sites were in process. Remember, we had an agreement with them that they were going to provide 33 additional sites. And I have in a backup, I can show you the list. 4 of the sites had been completed in terms of acquisition, and 1 was actually physically under construction. We had asked them a bunch of questions about rural telco provider update, and they came back and said, look, you know, we'll have our plan in place by the end of the first quarter. But they also did highlight that in the final plan that, you know, Highway 149 and 125 would definitely be within that coverage plan, what they would get from the rural telecom provider. And then lastly, this really should say by the end of the year, because the number didn't really change, is that there were 14 existing sites that they had upgraded to Band 14 as well. On in-building solutions, they talked about the sites that they were working on. I need to follow up because I haven't been able to verify whether or not the Q4 2019, because when I got the deck, it still wasn't clear if that agreement had been signed. So I will provide a follow-up to you guys once I get clarity on that. In terms of deployables, we had requested that they put 2 in the state. You know, as of this presentation, there's 1 in Castle Rock. The other one, as far as I can determine, seems to be somewhere in Nevada. That's probably the closest to us. I need to follow up on that as well. So the net of it is, of the 2 that requested, 1 is based in Castle Rock. The other, there's not a second one that's physically based in the state at this point. And they gave us contact information at the bottom in terms of, you know, if you wanted to go see that asset, go touch it, work with it. And then they also provided on the next slide contact information if you want to make a request. And as I was going through this material, I think, Sarah, what I'll do is we'll figure out how we can get this information, because I think this information we should share so people know how to, you know, gain access to that equipment if they're looking to use it.
Sorry to interrupt really quickly. Tracy, sorry to put you on the spot, but is that something that you have access to that you can share with us when we send out the email with your survey and the webinar series?
What do you mean that I have access to?
Okay. Yeah, it's all the way up. We just can't hear her very well.
Wow. Yeah, we could barely hear you, Tracy. I don't know what's up on the technology side of this thing.
Sarah, I can hear you loud and clear. I didn't understand what you're asking if I have access to.
These emergent request or planned request forms for the deployable units?
No, you would work that through that 7,000 number and working directly with AT&T. If there's problems, I can certainly help, but that would be where you would start.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is all AT&T stuff, so.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No worries. So continue to roll ahead. This really didn't change from the October presentation that they gave in terms of their desire to want to accelerate mission critical push to talk technology. You know, again, I suspect in the next update that we'll get from AT&T, which I'm targeting probably around the May-ish timeframe, you know, we'll get an update on where they are with that deployment of mission critical push to talk. On the rapid deployment kits, I need to close back with AT&T because they talked about it being available in late November. I have not gotten an update. Is it available now? Sure. Okay, so it's verified for me that they are available now, so that milestone was met. So, let's see. One other thing that we had discussed with AT&T is about site hardening. And so this is the list of sites where they have installed generators. And that's primarily their focus in terms around hardening is ensuring the reliability of the power to these facilities. And they have additional plans that they're going to be rolling out in 2019 as well. And again, if anyone is looking for more detail about any one of these particular sites in your area, we'll work with you to get more information about that. So they showed this slide last time in terms of the number of folks who have signed up. I'm not going to go through the detail. We do have a backup slide that I can show real quickly to show the actual list of agencies that have signed up for FirstNet services. But you can sort of get a sense of, the number of connections, the number of agencies, how many of them were actual new customers versus migrations from an existing AT&T plan to a FirstNet plan and so forth. And I know that they've been working with NASPO, for example, in terms of getting the new contract in place and all those things. So these things have been moving along. I think that's pretty much it. So I just want to go to the backup really quick. This is the list of agencies. And again, it says October, but it's really as of December, that have signed up, and the number of data and voice line devices that they have as well. And I know it's kind of an eye chart, but again, if anybody has any specific questions, I can get that information to you. And then likewise, in terms of the sites, I just wanted to highlight the two that they had talked about with site acquisition as being complete. One is in Eve, and the second one is in Cold Creek Canyon. I think that's number 13 down there. And in Cold Creek Canyon, they were saying is actually they've gotten, as of December, it was under construction. So, and on the second page, there are two other sites, that's 25 and 30. One is Highway 160, and the other is near Centerville, yeah, and between Buena Vista and Salida. So, they're making progress. I'm sure we'll see some more information, but as we all know, this building out new sites is going to be a long-term exercise on their part. So, and I think that's pretty much it in terms of what I wanted to cover. And again, my commitment to, any folks on the phone here and just to our first responder community, we'll continue to ask for those updates from AT&T. And if anybody has specific questions, we will help you go get an answer to that question as we go forward.
So the next item, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Questions?
I just wanted you to know that
No,
Bob, sorry.
Bob Pfeiffer's here.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a question as well?
yeah, this is Carl from Garfield. Just so you know, that's still, FirstNet's still on people's minds. When we met with Senator Gardner a couple of weeks ago, he brought it up and wanted to know the status of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this morning at the Club 20 meeting, it was brought up, and they want to bring AT&T in to give an update at their spring meeting.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know that. Yeah, and I think that's appropriate. One of the things I've gotten pinged by folks as well asking for questions about FirstNet, and my approach, and I've had this conversation with Tracy as well. I tend to redirect people to, if it's a FirstNet related question, you can go talk to Tracy about it. And then if you get into much more specific questions about AT&T's rollout of the service, we need to get you in contact with the right person from AT&T. And by the way, I'm more than willing, if you get more requests or you hear things like that and folks need help, facilitating logistics or getting the right people into the meetings, again, let me know and we'll work to help you guys do that as well. So we'll be a resource to make that happen. Do we have a quorum yet? Still?
No,
Sure.
has anyone else joined the meeting besides Bob Pfeiffer?
This is Jack Cobb. I had to rejoin. I got kicked off by a bump here in the building for some reason.
No worries, Jack.
So what I would suggest we do, let's skip over the discussion of the future of the governing body.
Okay.
We'll save it towards the end to see if we get to a quorum, and then I have an idea of how we could deal with it.
Okay.
So why don't we keep talking about the coverage analysis?
Okay, so we're going to skip over the next item, which is future of the Colorado Public Safety Broadband Governing Board, to wait to see if anybody else joins, and go right down to the coverage analysis project update. As some of you will remember, we sent out several notices about this coverage project that we were offering to stakeholders. What it is it's an allowable activity underneath SLIG P2.0 to basically allow for drive testing of known coverage gap concerns in FirstNet AT&T coverage in IOC 1 right now. IOC 2 ends at the end of March, and we will be able to test IOC 2 at the end of that, at the period that it ends at. But for right now, we're only testing IOC 1. We have a survey online which people have filled out, and the process has been sending out. Right now, we're still working on the in-vehicle modems, but we have handheld smartphone devices with an application by a company called Solutelia. The application is called Wind, and it's very easy to use. We're just about to receive the first devices that were sent out to Eagle County back in the middle of March, and we'll be providing them with coverage maps that they can use to better understand their coverage concerns. And we can share some of that information as we get down the line, but so far the project is going really well. We do have those devices for a full year, so if at any point you're interested in testing the coverage, there's a link online, which I'll send out again at the end of this meeting. Or you can contact any of us to discuss, and we can show you how to get the required information to us to be able to do the testing. But other than that, it seems like it's going really well. We just had lessons learned with Eagle County, and they had very positive reviews. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Great. Has anyone else joined the call?
Yes, good afternoon. Nate Wallowitz is here.
Okay, thanks, Nate.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay. We'll move on to the public safety engagement and technology innovation. Ed, go for it.
Just to give you a highlight, we are still out engaging folks out in the state. More than anything right now, we're just talking about technologies that are present today, as well as what we feel will be coming in the future to make public safety more efficient. We just had a chance to be in front of the NCR once again, and very good time, very informative, and we'll probably be out to 5 different locations from folks in the room that asked us to come out and do various presentations on what's available for first responders. A lot of agencies are really interested in the use cases, and so that's what we'll be talking about. And you'll notice down at the bottom for important dates, we'll cover again in a moment, but let me just give you some highlights, some things that we're doing in the next coming months. As you'll see the screen here, we again are back at IWCE, and I'll be presenting 3 sessions. You can see the first one, Connected First Responder, New Tech for Law Enforcement, Fire Personnel, EMS. And we are really, in this session, we're going to highlight the work that we did with Fire Prevention and Control over the summer at the Country Jam, where we used ATAC, which stands for Android Tactical Assault Kit. It's now a team awareness kit. They just use the TAC. But that's what that session will be about, and we'll be talking about the innovations that are present today and are coming down the pike. I will also be leading a session, I believe, on Wednesday of next week on rural broadband and getting to that last mile of connectivity. This seems to be a theme every year at IWCE, different speakers, different times. I think even Nate, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, talked on this same subject. So, and then the last session, we'll be putting data and IoT to work, what sensors, drones can tell us about fire floods. And this is real informative. There's a lot, as you know, being done with drones, et cetera, and it can actually make our jobs more efficient. For example, if you have a wreck on the highway, you know, rather than, you know, if there's a death in that wreck, it's going to take anywhere from 4 to who knows how many hours before that scene can be cleared. But with drones, we can actually get it up, and we can actually do a grid search, and we can highlight key things in that grid as far as skid marks, et cetera, and we can expedite those scenes. And as we know, we've got a couple of folks from CDOT on. It's really important to keep those highways open. So anyway, that's what that session will be about. And then moving on quickly, this year again, we will be at the Radio Summit. And we encourage you, this is probably the best deal in town. And it's only $25 to attend. And there you have, you can just make note of the Eventbrite there and how to get a hold of that. If you have any issues, either contact me or Sarah or anyone from our office. We'll get you in the right place. We will be presenting at this conference again. And then I'm just going to mention that, again, this year, this will be our second year that we will be in charge of the public safety track and bringing that to life. And again, we had some of you that are on the call. You presented for us last year. And again, we would like to have cutting edge, innovative sessions that our responders and other people who maybe not a responder, but would be really interested in what's going on in technology and public safety. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, I'd love to get a call from you so that we could discuss. And we'd like to get you on the agenda, maybe write up a description and have you come present at Mountain Connect again. Anyway, there's a lot of different stuff that we're doing every month. If you'll notice in our newsletter, we have what's called the Lunch and Learn series. I think you will find that those are very edifying. So please join us for those. We've had some interesting conversations anywhere from devices to different capabilities. For example, we had a company called Beartooth, and if anybody's familiar with companies like GoTenna, Beartooth is the same type of company where they use 900 megahertz to actually achieve a simplex, so that I can talk from one device that has 900 megahertz Beartooth to another one. Fascinating stuff is coming down, and you can expect much of the same. Every month we have the Lunch and Learn series. It's usually at the end of the month, and you can find that in your newsletter. And if there are no questions or comments, I'm going to yield my time back to Sarah.
Great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Chief Tate, here's what I'm going to recommend, because you know we're almost a half hour into the meeting and we still don't have a quorum of actual members. So I think we should still have the conversation about next steps for the governing body. But that what we would do is at the end of that conversation, if there's a motion to move in a certain direction in relationship to the board, we can put that into minutes and ask people to ratify that in a minute as a way for us to move forward with it. So I was going to make that as a suggestion to see if that would work for you and for Bob.
Absolutely. And I think, you know what, that's a good segue into the discussion then. So one of the earlier topics was the governing board status, direction, where we at, what are we doing? And since we've went through this whole process of either opting in, opting out, ultimately coming to the decision that the state of Colorado would opt in, now the obvious question comes in place is there still a need for this governing body, especially given the way the OIT is going to be restructured a little bit, with FirstNet really kind of individually dealing with the localities that they're providing service to, and Tony's office having the ability to at least make sure that the things that were promised are followed through on. I'm not sure that there's a need for this body specifically, but I'm open to listen to everybody else's ideas, from everything from we dissolve this body to we severely reduce the number of times this body meets. So with that, I'll throw it over to any other board members that have any ideas or comments on that.
This is Carl. I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's important that we still advocate for public safety broadband, but the last several meetings, it seems like we've had a hard time getting a quorum, harder than normal.
Do you have any ideas, Bob?
Bob, did we lose you?
He's just muted.
You're muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted. What was that?
I asked if you had any input on that, Bob.
What? Sorry, somebody was in my office. What was I supposed to give input on?
I basically just questioned the need for keeping the governing board standing. Yeah.
I don't think so. And I think if we leverage the public safety board that's there, I think that would suffice, right? As long as there's some connectivity between it. But for us to be our own standalone, I don't think there should be any further requirement.
And Bob, as you know, as I've committed to you and Chief Tate as we go forward, I think what we'll do from my office is we'll report out to the Public Safety Communications Subcommittee, which is part of the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. As many of you probably know, that's managed by Chief Hayes. And we've had this conversation with them that we will use that as another forum where we'll share information about, the status of things. So, I agree with the advocacy. We're just going to try to leverage a statutory committee that's part of the state as a way to do that.
Okay.
So not hearing any other comments on it, I'm guessing there's no real objection to making a recommendation to stand down this board. Is there anybody that would disagree with that statement?
No, I'd make that motion if you need a motion.
Yeah. I don't even know if we have to have a motion, but let's go ahead and call that a motion. And Bob or somebody want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Eric, before you go, this is Joe Ribeiro. I want to make a comment or ask another question. Would the governor need should we make the governor aware of this idea before taking some action? And then the other is, if this body should need to continue, maybe we just look at a change to our rules or bylaws that it's a simple majority that can take voting action rather than a quorum of the membership. A simple majority attending a meeting.
Yeah, I think those are both valid. Matter of fact, you jumped ahead of where I was going to ask Tony to do. But I think right now what we can do is say that we have this motion in front of the board. I don't know if we just put it in the minutes, Tony, or if we just have Sarah send it out to the board, everybody via email as a board member for input. Ultimately, if there's no objection, I think we can just go forward with it. If there's people that want to propose a different solution, like less frequency or something like that, then we could schedule another meeting. But if there's consensus that we want to stand down the governing board, before we would do that, I think it would be appropriate, Tony, for you to at least reach out to the governor's office and ask them if they want a final briefing, and then let them know of our give them a final briefing of the board, then give them our recommendation to stand down the board, and then ultimately leave it up to the governor or the governor's office if they're willing to accept that or not.
Yeah, and that's fine. I have no problem doing that. And I'll work that through Teresa. Once we get a sense of where the whole group is, because I think what we'll do is we'll send out an email and ask, look, but we should ask them to either say you're in favor of it or you're against it. And if you're against it, why? And then what would you like to see differently, so that we get the right feedback from everybody.
Exactly.
And then once we've got that information, Chief, I'll reach out to the governor's office and explain to them what's going on. So.
I think we ought to be prepared to say, have we accomplished our goals? Is the mission or vision of this board complete? And then is it our consensus that if we're complete, then we should stand down or ask the governor for further direction?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll both capture this in a minute, and we'll have a separate email that goes out to the members, explaining to them what this discussion was and what the motion is, quote unquote, and have them weigh in positively or negatively. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Cool.
So with that, now we would be back into our regular agenda, which I think would be at any new business. Would that be right, Sarah?
Yes, yeah, and Tracy Murdoch with First Net Authority, we're going to put you on the spot since you'd asked for some time to talk about a couple of items. Are you prepared?
Thank you, Sarah. I just wanted to let the team know that FirstNet has put out a survey to keep asking them for their input on what do they think should be the priority for future investment and enhancement of the first responder network. And Tony suggested that you might all be interested in that. I know that Eric, or Chief Cade and Ed Mills both received a copy. Maybe they can share their opinion with it. It's open until Wednesday, March 3rd. There's 27 questions or 21 questions that includes a little bit about yourself, 10, 15 minutes. Ed, do you have any comments? Or Chief Cade?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage everybody to fill it out. I mean, fortunately for us, there is a group of people in Colorado that are very interested in this area. And I think it's an opportunity to, one more opportunity to kind of have a voice and express concerns and help try to direct the resources in a manner that we feel is most useful. So I think it's a valuable tool. It takes a little bit of time to fill out. I'm not completely done, but I would encourage anybody to volunteer to fill it out.
Okay, and Sarah said that she would be willing to send it out to the group, the group email list. So thank you for that. Basically, you're just saying, you're given a list and you're saying, what do you think is more important to invest in this or that? The second thing is I wanted to let everybody know that on March 21st, there's a webinar series that's being offered on the FirstNet catalog. It's not being offered by FirstNet, but it's in coordination with on the FirstNet catalog just to talk about what the apps are and just kind of what they do for public safety. And Sarah also has that link. You can register. It's March 21st for 90 minutes, and they're going to go through a set of apps and just kind of discuss them. And it's free. Just register. This came out on Mission Critical Communications. So those were the only two things I had for the group. Any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. All righty. Anybody else have any new business? I'll take that as a no. So with that, I think we can go ahead and have Sarah send out the emails asking the question on the structure of the governing board. And if nobody else has anything else, we will go ahead and adjourn.
All right. Thank you, Chief Cade.
Take care.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.